We're in the quarterfinals now. Everything has been leading up to this. We're in the playoffs now. Things are starting to get serious. Everything from here on out is a set where if you don't win, you're out.
Yep. Single elim. I feel like that's a bit unusual for EGC. I feel like most of our tournaments we've been kind of having that double elim for a while, which is nice to see it make a return. And nice to see the return of some faces that have been missing, right, Tim? I think the most notable one for a lot of people, B, but close alongside him, Ben hasn't been making that many deep runs in S-tier tournaments.
Yeah, we haven't seen it for a while. I mean, we know that we see DeMu in the last tournament that we saw in the Elite Classic too, right? You know, so he was doing well. He plays great games, and in the Elite Classic, we had 16 of those players that every one of them could have made the playoffs. Every one of them could have been in that top 8 position. And it's just like Master of Realms too. I think going back to this tournament, this is probably one of my favorite tournaments that EGC has put on so far because it's a smattering of everything. You know, you have some dry maps that are open, like Dry Arabia that we're going to see in game 1. You see some closed maps. You see some hybrid maps. You see a little water. It's getting wet out here, ladies and gentlemen. So there's so many different ways to play and so many different styles where you have some players that are maybe micro intensive more so than macro intensive, and you see that play out on water. And then we have macro intensive players in some of these open and closed maps. This has been so much fun to watch.
And then we have the players that camp in the corner when they get to close maps. And, you know, some people still are psychos who enjoy that play style. But, you know, one psycho who's been going undefeated, I see him in chat. I'm going to make his head even bigger. There's only one player who hasn't dropped a single game so far in this tournament, which is incredible. Yeah, it's Marine Lord. Everyone else has at least given one game over. I think actually, with the exception, I believe Beasty might have dropped one game. And then after that, it's been at least 2 games dropped by every remaining player in the tournament. Tight field, right? And this is interesting as well because when we get into this one, I've got to do it to DeMu, and it breaks my heart, Crackety. I don't know if you remember the last time DeMu was able to beat Beasty. We're going to have to like dust off the analogs. So I was looking up the stats. Currently, it's 6 wins for Beasty, 2 wins for DeMu. The last time that DeMu was able to beat Beasty in an S-tier tournament was N4C.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Then again, like it's always difficult, like getting that matchup, getting that confrontation happening, because sometimes obviously players they spawn in on opposite side of the brackets.
Yeah.
Those things can happen. But yeah, N4C, man, that's it's been a minute. It's been a minute since that tournament.
That's an interesting thought as well. You might be onto something there because DeMu and Beasty, like they're usually just sitting top of the ladder, right? They grind more than almost anyone when it comes to pub games. They always get that 1-2. So it's kind of interesting thought. But you know, what we have got to do quickly is kind of dissect this draft a little bit. You know, we've had the maps drafted out courtesy of Surfshark. I am noticing you usually get banned a lot. Crackety, I don't want to do it to your favorite Civ, but Tim will back me up on this. Clearly, they need to be nerfed because currently they are the most winningest Civ at over a 70% win rate in this tournament.
Yeah,
the phone.
Crackety, no, I got this one. 70% is a little ridiculous, isn't it? 70% is a little ridiculous. And, you know, we kind of know why. We see them on water. They're, you know, I said this when Zushi came out. They're so good when you go from Dark Age to Feudal Age and you have that tempo. Right? You get that IO as soon as you start the game. So it's going to be able to get that economy going. You know, you're going to be able to, just because getting into Feudal Age is a little bit cheaper, right? It's 340, 170 instead of the 400, 200. So you get that little bit of tempo to get up to Feudal Age faster. You get that first Navy ship out. 70%. I'm just saying.
We're going to have to kneecap them. But they're going to have to go. Rooster's at 44% win rate. Tim's doing cartwheels right now, but it's time for us all to do cartwheels because Beasty versus DeMu. Single elim. Whoever loses here goes out. Best of 5 kicks off now, and we do so with the good old classic, Dry Arabia.
All right, Dry Arabia. Here we go. DeMu spawning in the color purple, playing as the Delhi Sultanate. Beasty on the other hand side, he's playing as the Mongols here, so it's going to be probably a very heavy aggression in the feudal age, I would say here.
Yeah, you got to think so. I mean, this is a matchup that, I don't know about you particularly, Crackety, but this is a matchup that I've played a lot on the Delhi side. And even though I'm just a lowly diamond player and don't necessarily know the top competitive meta, what do you think in a vacuum on a map like Dry Arabia where all of the variables are kind of standardized? Who do you like?
Well, if you look at it objectively, it should be the Delhi, right? Because they're not just getting the sacred sites or the option of going for the sacred sites. But when it comes to the raw military, they're able to produce them really, really quickly. And their infantry gets that bonus 15% attack speed with them as well. So the archers are just baseline superior here in this matchup. I think that's really what it comes down to. These big kind of archer balls in the mid game where you're getting to that point where you're one-shotting most of the units, and then having that extra bit of attack speed really makes a difference.
Yeah, you know, it feels like for Delhi, as long as they get their feet out from under them, right? Because the Mongols, you see Beasty, he's got his Uvu up, he's got his barracks up, so we're probably going to be expecting, you know, some spearmen to come out, and maybe if Beasty wants to do some kind of Dark Age aggression, I guess he could, but, you know, you get a lot of these 2x production units. So when you get to like that 4 or 5 minute area, the Mongols are going to have more units, right? Because the Delhi, they're trying to get their wood economy going. They're trying to get all their buildings. They're trying to efficiently produce out of them. So Beasty, if he's able to really set the tone these 4 to 5 minutes, Crackety, I feel like he's in a good spot.
Yeah, should definitely be. And we are seeing that kind of Mongol specialty coming in here against the Delhi with that tower rush. And looking at the spawn here for DeMu, not that you really want to drop an outpost on the gold against Delhi, because Delhi, they don't really need the gold for upgrades. But yeah, even if he wanted to, like, the gold is very far behind in the base of DeMu. Instead, probably going to go for the woodline and the berries here, I would guess.
Yeah, honestly, towering it against Delhi, I really like it more so on the woodline, and we're seeing that villager move over. She has moved basically the entirety of the map. She's going to walk over, put that tower right next to that woodline, which is nice because, I mean, we talked about this already. Delhi needs wood to get all of those buildings up. If you're going to put towers on those wood lines, it means you're going to stall that production out.
Exactly, and now Tower Victory is going to be coming in. DeMu at least has line of sight on that outpost, so he does know that it's going to be coming in. Has a lot of sheep as well gathered here so far. Mining camp is getting delayed as well. Is going to be able to deny the Mongols a little bit of bounty that they could be getting otherwise. And yeah, overall, I mean, DeMu should be in a pretty fine state here at the moment. Outpost is going to go up, but it's not going to affect DeMu right away.
No, it definitely isn't. Just because, I mean, there's 2 wood lines there, right? He's got another one on the northwestern side. So if he wanted to try to get some wood, he obviously has some straggler trees as well. But this is kind of, you know, when it comes to the Delhi Sultanate, they really are a snowball sieve, right? And I'm going to use that analogy over and over again, and I've been using it for about 2 years, because they need to pack the snow correctly and get all of those buildings and get all of those military units to actually make an impact and go get those sacred sites. Doing things like this tower, you know, it's just a little bit of, it might not be the biggest amount of delay because Demu's going for the straggler trees and all that kind of stuff, but maybe with just a little bit of time, Demu's not going to pack that snow well, and then we don't get that Delhi avalanche.
Ooh, taking a look at Beasty space, so he's got the gold and the wood right up next to his TC. It's going to be really tough for DeMu to put on any immediate aggression, which is why I think Ghazi Raiders probably isn't going to be the opener here for DeMu, not at all. It's going to have to be archers, and archers are also going to be a little bit difficult here for him to field, because we can already tell that, like, his wood control right now at this point in the game, it's fairly limited. He cannot have access to his close wood line due to these outposts. Instead, he'll probably have to go for the wood line that's a little bit further away. That's not going to be in range of his TC, which is in turn going to allow Beasty to potentially get some Keshiks out and really be able to harass that wood line.
Yeah, that's the best thing you can do, right? I mean, DeMu, you kind of, when you're dealing with a tower rush, I feel like DeMu's doing the right thing. He gets an archery range, he puts a scholar in it, making sure he's going to be efficiently producing those archers, getting them out in a few seconds. And at least with 1 or 2 archers, probably maybe about 2 or 3, he's going to be able to make sure, hopefully, this tower doesn't get up. But he's Crackety, he's pulling the boys. The entire Delhi Providence is coming up here to try to take down this tower. And one of them's going to end up going down. Spearman's going to move down to the south side. So now, that lumber camp, that safe wood line, we can get that little bit on the western side. He's going to be able to get a little bit of that wood there.
I feel like that was really necessary. Like, you could tell Beasty, he was just moving all of his spearmen very close to, like, on top of his villagers, which made it pretty much impossible for DeMu with his archers to try and snipe down that villager. Like, he just couldn't click him. So DeMu actually had to, like, quote-unquote overreact and pull that many villagers. Otherwise, that outpost would have gone up and really put him in a precarious situation when it comes to securing that wood line.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, you got 10 or 15 villagers that are running out with shivs when they're getting a little upset. They're getting a little angry. I think you got to get rid of that tower. You got to walk in the other direction. What do you think about Beasty's idea of going for deer stones in feudal age? I mean, I know, you know, we see a lot of Mongols going with silver tree with trade, but against the Delhi, you think deer stones is the move?
think Deer Stones has to be the move, mainly because Delhi, they love spamming out those Ghazi Raiders. So if you were going for trade, it's going to be very tough for you to be able to protect your trade. And look at that, Beasty sneaking up an outpost here in the corner on the berry. It's going to make it very hard for DeMu to go for like that kind of like live transition from sheep over to berries.
Yeah,
he's gonna make the life a little bit harder there for him.
I really love that for Beasty, putting those towers around there. He's getting arrow slits too, so maybe he might be able to pick off some of those villagers on the north wood line. But we all know for Delhi, they hate farm transitioning, right? It slows tempo. They're such a tempo civ, so they're putting towers everywhere. They're making sure those berries end up going, you know, making sure that if DeMu does go to those areas, he's going to be able to find it. Arrow slit's going to be able to shoot over an entire forest, Krakeny. A DeMu villager goes down.
That's 2 villagers down already, and it feels like, did DeMu have some idle time here? Probably. He pulled a lot of his villagers earlier, because now he's down 3 villagers in a game against the Mongols, where usually you'd be ahead by a villager. So right now, DeMu, yeah, he must have lost a lot, not just through losing those villagers, but also just passively having some TC idle time due to like just having to pull all of his villagers there to deny that outpost from coming up. And I like this play from BC as well. Right now, before DeMu's able to take any map control, going out onto the deer.
Yeah, I really like this too, because I mean, he really does have 90 to 95% of this map, just because that one tower, right? That one tower just making DeMu kind of hole out into his base. It means you're not going to be able to go out. You're not going to be able to get those sacred sites. Maybe if you want to get some food, you're not going to be able to do that either. Now he goes to that wood line that you alluded to, Krakeny, on the northwest part of the map. Keshik's going to get a little bit of a charge. DeMu's villagers, they're really finicky. They really want to pull out those shivs every once in a while. Ghazi Raiders will be able to catch up to them. It looks like 1 or 2. It's good enough to get those Keshiks to move back in the opposite direction. But now DeMu, military count 14 to 9. Might he see his way out of this?
Yeah, this is now the point in time. DeMu, he still has access to all the resources that he needs in order to be able to make his military, has the scholars, so he's able to get that very fast production out there. And if he's able to get control over some of these sacred sites here, he's going to be in a very fine position. Getting the sacred sites akin to like having 4 villagers gathering, pretty much, like 3 to 4 villagers. And you can then use that gold that you're getting to buy other resources. And look at what BC's doing behind all of that. We got the nice little picture-in-picture there. After putting up an outpost on the berries in the corner, he's now putting up an outpost on the double berries. Not double berries, double deer.
That's so good. That's so good, because like one of the reasons why Delhi snowballs as much as they do is getting that map control means you don't have to do the farm transition, right? And you can continue to make all of these units. Now, he's just going to have that little bit of delay, and that could be in a little bit of delay for production. It could be something that Beasty might be able to get that military count kind of evened out a little bit. Right now, military count 20 to 11, and it looks like with these Keshiks, he's trying to stop some of these sacred sites from going, but that middle one is going to end up getting capped. I think that southern one might end up getting capped too. Beasty just doesn't have the amount of units. He doesn't have the amount of units to make sure he can take an engagement on a site.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now it is only Keshiks for him. DeMu, though, so far, he's been going only on Ghazi Raiders and Archers. Now, the Archers, in mass, are going to be able to provide a lot of value here. Armor upgrades, Pierce armor upgrades, and Pierce damage upgrades coming in for both players roughly at the same time, so fairly even there. But now 2 sacred sites have been captured. That's going to be a good amount of value coming in for DeMu here. And we can see the market has already been placed.
Yeah, he's going to be able to trade off some of that gold like you talked about. And, you know, I really like DeMu's composition right now based on what's going on. The Ghazi Raiders can kind of hold up against those Keshiks. They get that +2 to heavy. That tower finally going down. Spearmen are going to try to take some Ghazi Raiders with it, and it looks like they will take one. Keshik's going to be moving around that north side, moving north, maybe trying to cut off some reinforcements. I think that tower, even though it might not have necessarily delayed him, it just means, you know, a couple Ghazi Raiders go down. Maybe it was worth that little bit of delay to go up to that northwest trading post, or that northwest wood line, excuse me, and Keshiks have been able to raid there.
Yeah. Textiles meaning, though, none of the villagers did go down here for DeMu. Sacred sites, though, are getting decapped. That's so many Keshiks right now. Like, DeMu doesn't have any spearmen out at the moment.
Yeah, the only spearman that he had was pretty much in that tower. So now that they're gone, I mean, DeMu's making a lot of archers. He's got 18, 19, almost 20 archers that are going to be there. Military count 30 to 12. Honestly, even though, you know, there's a little bit of a villager discrepancy, you know, you see the economic count is 37 to 33. I feel like for DeMu, if he continues to make some units, he keeps Beasty trying to worry about decapping these sacred sites, and this extends into feudal a little bit, Delhi's going to look pretty good.
Yeah, they're gonna look good. The question that I'm asking myself here is, at which point is DeMu adding in spears? Or is he planning to just try and overwhelm the Kashyyyks with Mars Ghazi and Mars Archers here? You need quite the big Archer Ball in order to take down these Kashyyyks. They do have the same amount of armor as normal Knights do in Feudal Age, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for him. Also, he's going to be lacking the mobility with those Archers. With spears, at least, like, you make up a little bit for the lack of mobility. In this case, I feel like it's getting very, very difficult. Now, up to 14 Kashyyyks, he still has more Kashyyyks than Ghazi Raiders.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like, you know, it's not like something that's going to be difficult to macro to, right? When you get a barracks, I mean, it's just a little bit of food, a little bit of wood. You're using that, making Ghazi Raiders anyway, and Spearmen are just going to end up being more effective. I think it's more so just because we're in God mode, Crackety, and we can see that Beasty has Kashyyyks and only Kashyyyks. DeMu doesn't have that luxury, right? So he's thinking, oh, maybe we're going to see some Archers, or maybe we're going to see a lot more Spearmen that come out, and Spearmen are staying at home because they're not as mobile or something like that. I think if DeMu takes a look at that base, sees a little bit of scouting, or just takes a look and sees what Beasty has for his whole army, DeMu would be like, yeah, I think I'm going to run into your base.
At least now, Spearmen are going to be coming in for DeMu. We did just see him place down that barracks. Oh, army gets spotted out. Archers are going to try and get that wall up, but yeah, it's a lot of units here. So even though in theory Beasty has the counter here for this military, he's going to be a little bit hesitant when it comes to actually taking a fight. It's just a lot of units, and behind this DeMu, he does have the +1 damage upgrade. Beasty does have the +1 pierce armor upgrade. It's still kind of an even trade. It's still going to be 2 damage coming through from these Archers.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, because of the mobility, the Archers are never going to catch up. He's trying to block them off just a little bit. Beasty's kind of sitting in this corner with the outpost, and I don't think he saw the outpost yet until about right now. You see on Aeroslit, some of them are going to be able to come out, but these Kashyyyks, they're sitting in the corner. They're looking for the next map over, and I don't think they have anywhere to go. Looks like Beasty's going to be taking that charge against those Ghazi Raiders. Ghazi's doing a pretty good job, those Raiders. I think maybe a couple of them ended up going down, but the great thing about him, Crackety, is he's trying to get that raid. You see Cal doing a wonderful job of doing that picture-in-picture on that south wood line. Couple of villagers are going to end up going down. DeMu's berry villagers looked like they were a little bit in danger, but those Kashyyyks trying to run the other way. These Ghazi Raiders, Crackety, even though I hardly know her, they're going to be able to catch up to those Kashyyyks and take them down.
I'm wondering what's happening behind this, because DeMu, he's not looking right now. Look at the picture-in-picture. Is still villagers dying in the wood line. Just now gets noticed, but that's a big deficit now in the economy for DeMu. Also doesn't have any sacred sites capture, and behind this, Beasty aging up to Castle Age.
Yeah, and I think that's really, honestly, I think that's really what he needs at this point. You know, I mean, trying to get to Castle Age, get some of those really strong Castle Age units, upgrade those. Kashyyyks going to really help you out. Kashyyyks are going to be able to take this fight kind of near the town center. He's trying to keep that step readout pretty much alive, but those Ghazi Raiders, they're doing a good job just trying to limit that Kashyyyk count. Now, step readout ends up coming in. Looks like we have about 5 or 6 Kashyyks that are left. DeMu is adding Spearmen. You can see that on the top right part of your screen. There's about 9 or 10 Spearmen over there. Now that Beasty hit Castle Age, he knows, hey, you spent 1,800 resources doing things like making a fancy building, so that means you don't have any units. Military count 51-7. DeMu's like, this is my time if I'm going to charge.
Yeah, and he's diving the TC. 15 villagers inside firing on the Archers, and Beasty is now starting to make a lot of men-at-arms, but he doesn't actually have that many in queue here, considering, because now his food economy is going to get completely idled out.
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty rough. I mean, Beasty does have a considerable amount of idle time, and he's trying to add some men-at-arms. You talked about food getting idled out because all of those pastures and those sheep were lying dormant for a considerable amount of time. It just means those men-at-arms, you might not be able to get that many. Beasty's sitting on 23 food. He has 3 men-at-arms in the queue. He's got to start harvesting some mutton if he's going to make some men-at-arms good enough to take a fight here.
At the same time, DeMu, he's floating, not floating, but he's sending more and more units over to Beasty's base. Now, gold is getting exhausted, so now Beasty, at least he can put all of those villagers over to food, because that's what he needs right now. He needs a big amount of men-at-arms in order to come back from this.
Yeah, and if you're DeMu, man, you gotta just lay on the pressure right now. You know, I mean, a lot of these villagers are trying to get up north around that step readout site. They're going to be meeting a decent amount of archer arrows, and just camping around that step readout just means those villagers don't have anywhere to go. We have 10 or 15 villagers. They're doing a little dotsy-do, doing the hokey pokey, turning themselves around. They don't really know where to go. They're going back on the wood over here. Men-at-arms are going to be able to take down some of those Ghazi Raiders, take down a lot of archer fire as well.
There's one Kashyyyk killing like 10 villagers there from DeMu. More villagers getting pulled. Oh my god.
That's got to be. There's 35 total economic units from DeMu, and I think about 20 of them were just shivving a Keshik at that point.
Definitely not a feels good man situation there for DeMu. And Beasty, he's got the economy right now in order to just pump out more and more of these men-at-arms. Plus 2 Pierce armor also going to be coming in here. Not really that he needs it. At this point in time, the men-at-arms only take 1 damage anyways, with 5 armor against the 6 damage from the archers.
Now it's kind of crazy because, like, yeah, these men-at-arms are gonna repel the archers, right? And the spearmen are gonna end up going there. I think I see an outpost over there from a Beastie with a Springald in placement, so it means that they don't really have anywhere to go. Archers are gonna continue to fire at these men-at-arms, but if you're DeMu, what do you think you got to be doing right now? Because he's continuing to make a bunch of units. He's got an economic count of 37. Does he try to go up to castle? But I don't think he's gonna be able to because that one Keshik is just idling the entire Delhi province.
The wall, it hasn't been finished. DeMu, he didn't re-wall. And so the Keshiks are just able to freely dive into the food economy here from DeMu. That's going to cost him heavily. Still at the moment, 49 military to 8. And Beasty's been losing a lot of his men-at-arms, and he needs to build a big mass if he wants to be able to deal with this army that DeMu has right now. That's going to be a couple more villagers going down at the very least. Khan should also be going down to the archer fire. DeMu, he's not focusing the men-at-arms with his units, instead going for the outpost. Only archers right now.
And that's the thing about these men-at-arms, Crackety, because you're talking about trying to get a mass of them. As them individually, they're not necessarily a DPS unit, right? So they're not going to be able to take down 30 archers, you know, with just 2 or 3 men-at-arms. That's not going to do it for you. Beastie's outpost basically being the MVP and making sure his vills stay alive.
And there's also a single Keshik going to the deer right now as well. Damn, he's losing so many villagers. First a surprise outpost, now the Keshik coming in as well. Oh, DeMu, he's really having trouble right now when it comes to food.
And you know, if you just finish that wall, right? Because a wall is only as strong as its biggest hole, right? So having those Keshiks come in there every once in a while, having those 20 villagers end up getting idled, it just means, you know, DeMu could have a military count of 60 right now if he just stabilized that.
I think that's just the biggest issue here for him right now. Beasty is starting to get that mass up. 30 archers versus 10 men-at-arms. That's a fight that the men-at-arms are actually going to be able to take. And now Beasty also going for his own archers behind this. He's going to be able to get veterancy. He's going to be able to get those advanced blacksmith upgrades. And now DeMu, it feels like he's kind of stuck in that feudal age, not really able to get out of it. And without the access to food as well, he's not able to like get the superior unit mass going for him as well.
No, and I think this is where we're going to see the downfall of DeMu, right? He's on 6 food, and he's going to be trying to get as much as he can. We saw how clutch those towers were, right? Because then now he knows where he is for food. He's not going to be able to get food. He's done with food this game. He's trying to move on to game 2. Game 1's going to Beastie.
Yeah, I mean, it really all just came down to these kind of raids, not being able to close those walls, getting the outposts up on the double deer, on the berries in the corner. It just bought Beastie so much information, and he's able to get the maximum value out of those raids. We can see there with the villager count. Looked like DeMu was almost able to equalize it with the raid after Beastie had Castle Age. But in the end, the continued raids then, just these couple of single Keshiks able to win Beastie the game.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, honestly, I think for DeMu, you could take a look at that military count. Oh my God, that's that Delhi snowball, ladies and gentlemen. He had 50 military count. Beastie did have a decent amount of Keshiks, but maybe not so much of anything else. I think for DeMu, when you got to that mid-feudal, late feudal kind of thing, I think it was winnable for him. I do.
Yeah, I agree. But next game, it's going to be from our Chaos category, and it's going to be moving out. We'll be seeing the Ruse coming in from Beastie against the Japanese from DeMu, so definitely going to be an interesting matchup here. Moving out, probably, like, in my opinion, has, like, on average, the most entertaining games. They're really, like, as the category says, chaotic in the best of ways, I want to say.
Oh, yeah. It's a bunch of chaos. I love it. Especially with, you have a couple of these 2 civilizations. You could see all the water that they'll be moving out to. You could see these civs, they're good. They're good on water. You know, we talk about the Rus having the Ladya fishing boats, arguably one of my favorite units in the game. It's 1 fishing boat, but it works as 2. It's insane. They can teleport their fish to another dimension or to, just the dock to get the plus 40. And then the Japanese, their fishing boats, yeah, they're normal fishing boats, but they're half off. So it just means you're going to be able to get to that feudal age a little bit quicker. And plus, with the Japanese having the Koka Township, if they chose to use that, having a couple shinobi, but against the Rus, how effective do you think those shinobi are?
I guess they can be a little bit effective here and there, if the docks are getting placed to the side and stuff like that. In the end, the question is, where are you gonna really be putting your Kremlin? The Kremlin's been nerfed. It doesn't have as much range as it used to. So it's gonna be a while until you really start shooting behind the wood line. I think instead, maybe a good decision could be to try and place it on one of the sides where the fish are. That could be a way to do it. I also want to quickly highlight the bans, because we see civilizations like Ayubids, Juji, and China being banned from both players on both sides. I feel like those are also just by far the best civilizations to have on maps like Moving Out and Archipelago.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these civilizations, and you're seeing all of, actually HRE is banned on both sides as well. HRE, China, and Zushi. That's got to be good for you. You got to enjoy that one, right? We're not going to see HRE this entire series. We don't have to.
It's the same bans, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been, honestly, it could have been some really clippable content if we saw HRE coming out of both sides, just because I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth when HRE comes out. I don't know what's going to happen, but with these, I mean, a lot of these ones that did get banned, they're all civs with good wood economies. They're all civs that they know, looking at the map pool right now, you're going to be playing a decent amount of water, right? So a lot of these water civs that end up getting banned, or a lot of these high wood economy civs essentially getting banned, you're going to leave a couple left over. Rus is one that's going to be left over. Japan is one of those leftovers. So it's something that when we're playing on maps like Archipelago, Moving Out, even something like Four Lakes, it might be good. Now, for Four Lakes, because we are going to see Moving Out, but on Four Lakes, these are civs that I kind of thought that I would see more on Four Lakes than a Moving Out per se.
That's true. All right, just a couple of seconds, and then we'll be jumping into our game number 2. Can Beasty build on his lead? Can DeMu equalize the set? Here we go. In Moving Out, spawning in the color yellow. We got Beasty playing as the Rus. A little bit of scout-on-scout fighting already happening between Beasty and DeMu, who's playing in the color purple as the Japanese here.
Yeah, this map is incredibly interesting, and you can see it on the lower right-hand part of your screen as we hover over Demu's town center over here on the western side of this solitary middle island. But as the Rus, the number one thing as a Rus player such as myself, the really important things are the little antlers that you're seeing on your screen, right, on the mini-map. You're seeing where some of these deer packs are, and our wonderful observers are hovering over on all of these deer packs. The thing of it is, in Dark Age, you can't get to them. You got to get a transport ship, and you got to end up moving out. That's exactly what Beasty ends up doing. He's using a Logi transport ship. But one of the great things about the Rus, Crackety, is you get that transport ship, right? You end up taking your scout. You end up moving it over there just to make sure you get some of those deer patches. And then you could just convert it to a fishing boat if you want to.
It's sort of like Transformers, the fishing ships, the transport ship's just gonna go burp, 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 burp. I can't do the sound effect for the Transformers, unfortunately. I don't have it as a soundboard ready on me as well, but that's as close as we're gonna get. But yeah, BC, he's just gonna put the scout on the outer ring, and then he's gonna transform the transport ship into a fishing ship. There we go, transformation has been started. And now it's gonna be a lot of gold that BC can pick up. DeMu on the other hand side, yeah, he's just going to go for the fishing ship, so he's not going to try and deny Beasty that bounty.
Yeah, and that's kind of weird, because I mean, obviously Beasty gets a little bit of payoff because obviously for the bounty, but the transport ship gets transformed. For DeMu, do you think that's a good move? Not going for the transport ship and not trying to deny this deer hunt, because Beasty can get all 4 deer packs. He can get every wolf that's here. He can get every sheep that's here. Not so much that it matters just because of all the fish, but you got to think you want to be competitive with these deer packs, huh?
Right, something that I actually don't know off the top of my head. Does the Rus bounty affect fishing ships? I think it might.
I don't, to my knowledge, I didn't think so. I didn't think that they did, but again, I'm not 100% sure. If we had somebody who is obviously, what's really nice that we're streaming on Twitch is Twitch chat is Conk7, so they're going to be able to tell us. But
All right, it's only villagers. Only villagers. We're safe. We're safe. So in this situation, what I want to say is the deer, or rather the bounty, isn't going to be as important to deny, because chances are you won't be able to deny Beasty getting at least 100 bounty to be able to age up. So you might as well, like, you might as well not deny it at all, because after that, there's only a certain amount of gold that he'll have left over for either economy upgrades or ships afterwards. Looks like DeMu is going to be in a position to at least deny a couple of the deer here. Sheep look fairly even as well. Not that that really is going to come into play here. I think for the most part, it's really just about that gold being able to age up. And yeah, BC should definitely, like, yeah, he already has enough gold to be able to age up here. So it's not a big deal for him. Behind this, like, we can tell the age up, like, it's coming in really, really quickly. Beasty even having villagers on his sheep right now under his TC, so he wants to make sure that his age up is going to be coming in as soon as possible. Get that really, really good timing in that the Roos tend to have over other civilizations, where the feudal age just comes in at a ridiculously fast time, and then you can transform one of your ships and just be able to really annoy your opponent's ships early on. And it's going to be the Golden Gate here, so he's going to be able to make use of those tickets that he'll get, either for other resources other than gold, like food, wood, or just to be able to get more gold, be able to pump more demolition ships out, get more of those hulks in, those sprinkled ships, and really get in that position where Roos wants to be. I feel like Roos is like one of these civilizations where you don't want to find yourself trapped in a demolition ship war, mainly because those demolition ships from Roos are just so big. They're so easy to snipe out.
they are. Yeah, I mean, with the arrow ships, the attack ships, and the demo ships, I think the one thing about the Roos, which maybe people don't really like too much, is besides the demo ships having that massive flaming area, you know, so you can tell it's a demo ship. The attack ships and the arrow ships, they're kind of difficult to parse, you know, and sometimes just because they kind of look a little similar. I mean, obviously the bow of the attack ships are going to be a little bit more distinguishable, but Beasty going to be going up with that Golden Gate, one of my favorite landmarks. And I'm so glad to see it again. There's a transforming fishing boat right smack dab next to that fishing line. So we're going to see some of these boats start to move in the opposite direction. DeMu has got to hit that feudal age button. He's got to hit it now.
Yeah, Coca Township is going to be coming in. In the meantime, fishing ships are going to have to seek shelter. Oh, it's so close. Oh, it does go down. Wasn't able to repair it in time. So that is going to be one fishing ship killed here. Not that it really matters too much, to be fair. Like the Japanese, it's sort of similar to how Abbasid deal with their villagers. They don't mind if they die. They barely cost anything anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's more so, it's all about idling, right? It's all about trying to stall them out. And these boats, they're trying to get some of these fish. And I saw that third one, that one fishing boat over there trying to dodge, dip, dive, duck, and dodge out of those arrows. But it ended up going back to the dock. Beasty adding a second one for himself over here on the southern side. And we are going to see, most likely, another naval battle. It looks like DeMu, he does go with the Coca Township. You can see that Shinobi is in the queue. He's going to be trying to get some attack ships, right? Some of these sprinkled ships, trying to make sure you're trying to stall out some of these galleys. What's really nice for DeMu, though, is the Japanese. One thing we didn't really talk about yet is because of that passive stone income, you might be able to get a little bit of naval arrow slits that could help you out. It looks like DeMu, just because I saw those resources, I don't think he's doing it more passively. He's trying to get some stone now.
Yeah, now he's actively starting to mine that stone in order to get those emplacements. I think it's very, very important, especially for Japanese, to be able to get those emplacements in nice and early, be able to take control over most of the part of the map there. And indeed, there we go. First arrow slits is going to be coming in. We're also getting the first of the demolition ships here for Beasty. DeMu has to be careful because the stock already took a little bit of a hit there, so it's already lost like 20% of its health.
Yeah, those sprinkled ships really work wonders against those docks. You get enough sprinkled ships, those docks will absolutely disintegrate. But now Beasty, he's got his rock, he's got his papers, he's got his scissors. So it looks like he's going to be able to take a fight. He's got arrow, he's got sprinkled, he's got demo. It looks like DeMu just has one of those arrow ships, and you saw the arrow slits for the dock. A good explosion hits some fishing boats too. Some of these fishing boats are going to go down. That's 2 fishing boats going down. They're going to be able to repair that sprinkled ship, but that demo, that was pretty good.
DeMu making sure he doesn't lose too much. And these fishing ships, they are replaceable. It was a necessary move, I feel like, for DeMu. Has to be careful, though. Definitely doesn't want to lose that archer ship now. And he is going to be in a good position. And yeah, there it is. No Kremlin means that the Shinobi is actually going to be able to kill a villager there as well. Looks like DeMu, did he kill 3 villagers? I think he must have killed 3 villagers with that one.
I think he might have, and that's one of the most. This is one of the mistakes I made when dealing with Shinobi for the first time. As you see, yeah, 4 ended up going down. It looks like another one's gonna end up going up. Oh, didn't finish the animation, but transported himself there on the northern side. It looks like he will be able to sabotage that dock if he wants to, if he still has that cooldown. But one of the mistakes that I've made before when dealing with Shinobi is you think, oh, villagers, they don't have any melee armor, whatever. But those knives that the Shinobi have, they're so sharp. I think they hit for like 20, don't they?
I think it might even be more. It wasn't like 20 and then +5 against melee units, something like that. Like, they do an incredible amount of damage. It's, yeah, 20 +5 versus melee units. But I think villagers don't count as melee units.
Yeah, they might, just because they're considered more economic units. But yeah, those knives that they have, or ninja stars, or whatever they happen to use, they're quite sharp. And it looks like DeMu trying to take the initiative a little bit, trying to get over to that roost dock over there on the south side. DeMu had to make his fishing a little bit more up north, but Beasty has something to say about it. Again, we have these naval arrow slits for a lot of the docks here from DeMu, and you can see how far they can shoot those arrows. It just kind of, I don't know how you feel about this, Crackety, but just because of the fact that naval arrow slits exist, it feels like it really stalls the game out on water.
Yeah, I mean, this situation, DeMu, he's able to survive through the little bit of threat window, I want to say, where Ruse can really like start snowballing you on water. I think it definitely was necessary here for him to go for that. A little bit of an extended fight there with not even numbers, so DeMu definitely doesn't want to take that trade. Is going to have to back off and fall back to that dock with the emplacement.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, we're kind of witnessing the stall, right? Both of these navies are just sitting by their respective docks trying to get healed. It looks like Naval Arrow Slits is going to push the initiative a little bit, but Beasty's going to have to back up just because of the range of that stuff too. I mean, that villager's going to end up repairing it, but it's still in the range of the Naval Arrow Slits, and this is what happens. We're all just sitting here with bated breath, waiting for some of these fights to happen.
It's a lot of wood actually being used up here to repair that. You can see, like, in the top right side, like, Beasty, he's losing wood rapidly, and now Arrow Slits came in on the outpost as well. That's another villager going down there for Beasty. Beasty, though, looking at the income, he's still 1,200 wood compared to 660 wood per minute here. That's just the Ruse economy, and also having the option of potentially just trading out resources with that golden gate.
It's so wild too with how much wood he's able to get. I mean, just having that wooden fortress and doing things like getting double broad axe that Beasty has, and getting things like wheelbarrow, making sure you're going to be able to produce very quickly. It looks like Beasty, he really wants to take down this southern dock, and I really like what he's trying to do. He's got 2 or 3 demo ships, so maybe the arrow ships from DeMu might not be able to snipe. I think if he gets a good demo shop here, it could be really huge.
Villagers actually getting pulled. That's a lot of villagers. They're a little bit clumped up. Archer ships, they're gonna go there. They're gonna go for it. DeMu has to pull the villagers back. That's gonna be at least 1 villager going down. Could have been one. The demo ship now coming up in perfect time. Oh, getting huge connections to 2 Spriggle ships going down there. And that was an incredible trade there for DeMu. I'm not sure what Beasty was thinking, just standing that close to the dock. Like, you have to be thinking, oh my god, there could be a demo coming out at any point. And indeed it did.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the opportunities where Beasty, he would have loved to see what DeMu was queuing out of that dock. But getting that demo out, that's really important. Military count 30 to 34 for both of these players. That's fishing boat that ends up going down. More fishing over here on the southern side. I'm not really sure why he's sending fishing boats over there. I mean, maybe trying to get a little bit of food. Maybe he might be able to repair at the same time. But this stalls out a little bit. That DeMu fishing economy over there on the north side is going to be taken down by a couple of Ruse attack ship. Naval Arrow Slits are going to be helping out. This map, it's really living up to its name, Crackety, in terms of chaos. There's been naval battles on north side, south side. No clear victor yet.
But at the same time, Beasty, even though he doesn't have like a dramatically higher military ship number, he's able to push DeMu here on one side and stall him out on the other. DeMu, he's now going to try and go for a push on the other side. I would imagine now that Beasty is pushing in this far. To be fair, there's still the emplacement, right? So it's a lot of passive damage just coming in the entire time.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, just based on how much Naval Arrow Slits cost, it's really worth its weight. isn't it? You know, I mean, the docks from Beasty are trying to pump out units all the time. A lot of these spring-load chips are trying to take down this dock, that Roost dock on the south side, probably about 50% of the way down there. And on the north side, another naval battle on either side. I want to give a big shout out to production right now for making sure they're not missing a beat. These water maps are very, very difficult. So big shout out to Cal and big shout out to Vodka for making sure that we can get all of the action here. It looks like that Roost dock on the south side, there was no arrow slits on it, Crackety, and there never will be. It's down now.
Down indeed, and behind this, it looks like the outpost from DeMu, it's starting to fire on villagers. I think there were more villagers that just got killed there in the woodline from Beasty.
Look at this. No! Oh my god.
That's where it is.
All these wooden fortresses are trying to get built for Beasty, but it takes a little bit longer to try to get them up. We got another naval battle over here on the south side. Demo ships trying to get that little bit of an edge on that naval battle. Looks like they will be coming up dry. Demo ship does take down his spring-old ship on the northern side for Demu. It looks like he's trying to push the initiative. Naval Aeroslit's trying to help Demu out on that north side, but that dock is burning, ladies and gentlemen. It might end up going down if we don't end up getting some repairs off of it. But now it's going to be all about the middle. This is a massacre. Both of these players are trying to get as much wood. Oh my god, there's just peasant corpses scattered all over this forest line, adding fertilizer to these trees.
Yeah, I think Beasty might be trying to just go out now, go on the outer ring to get more wood. So there's a lot of villagers there in the middle side. Tries to play around the line of sight to not get hit there. But right now, the economy, it's definitely looking a little bit grim here for Beasty. We can see the wood income. It's been at 1,200 wood per minute. It's down to 400, 500-ish now.
Yeah, and I mean, that northern side's a little bit safe. Once that ends up getting thin, maybe he ends up moving out in a different direction. Another Beasty dock on the northern side is going to end up going down. This could be a big naval battle here, as Demu is trying to retreat just a little bit. The dock is going to be coming up on the northern side. It looks like it's a battle of inches here, practically. One dock goes down. They do their best to try to get a dock around there, trying to get some naval arrow slits, just trying to mark where their points are in the Navy. But now we see a lot of Bruce Spring-old ships over here on the north side trying to take down the Japanese Spring-old ships. That dock is not going to go up. That's a couple villagers that end up going down. Those arrow ships looking for things to actually hit. There's a lot of Spring-old ships over there on the northern side, but now he might be able to get rid of that dock just because of that little bit of bonus damage. But I agree with you, Crackety, especially with that wood line on the north side. It's only a matter of time before we see some transports.
You have to move out at some point in time. I think the sooner the better. Demu behind this, he's even banking up some resources. Could potentially be going up to Castle Age at some point here soon.
Yeah, that's kind of why. I mean, Demu does have the luxury of doing that, I think, just because of the economic count, right? He was ending up taking down a decent amount, and hopefully we'll see some outposts over there on the north side. He pulled a lot of villagers to try to build a dock, just to make sure he's getting naval arrow slits pretty much on that thing immediately. So he'll be able to shore up, pun very much intended, he will be able to shore up his defenses over there on the northern side. The one thing for Beasty, I feel like that's been going very well for him, is he has a lot of fishing boats on that eastern side, a lot of that deep water fish. It's been relatively untouched, but I think that fish is going to be running out soon.
I think Demu, he can go for another outpost there behind the woodline, then get with a fishing ship like close to the shoreline. Because fishing ships, they have so much line of sight. Could be that he gets another couple of villager kills here, but now Beasty is pushing with his entire fleet. Wait, I think he converted a couple of his fishing ships, right? Like, that's a lot of archer ships right now that he has.
Yeah, I think he might have too, and you know, he's kind of sacrificing that food economy. You can see Beasty on the top right part of your screen. He does have some boats, you know, there's maybe about 5 or 6 different fishing boats, but that food economy is severely low compared to what Demu has, and it looks like we're going for a little pincer technique, Crackety. We see a North Navy, we see a South Navy from Japan. Might we get some sneaky demo ships? It looks like he's trying to take that battle at the same time, but the thing is, the North, the South, they didn't converge at the same time, so he can deal with this North side, and by the time he does deal with that North side, some of these demo ships might get some good points of impact. Let's see where these demo ships end up going. You just gotta hit the button, you gotta explode. There you go.
Oh, that's some big hits.
And now Beasty's gonna be able to turn around. He can be able to get the South Navy.
Yeah, suddenly, like, wait, no, Beasty. What happened? Look at the economy. He just lost like 10 more economy units.
Oh my god, this is
and
chaos,
suddenly the
man.
trade is fine.
This is absolute chaos. I mean, Beasty did pull the hold on this pincer technique, but these outposts, See, the northern side, it's starting to thin out a little bit. You know, so we're seeing these outposts come up, more villagers end up going down. DeMu's ready to hit the castle age button.
And that could be floating the floating gate very soon here. And there it is. Floating gate is going to be coming in on the corner, like on the ring outside. DeMu ship gets a big connection as well. And 2 Springle ships go down in the blink of an eye.
That's the second time that he got baited by that dock. You know,
DeMu's checking the economy at the same time. Has to be careful though. There's a single DeMu ship, 2 DeMu ships that could spell doom for these Springle ships.
And this south side navy, I mean, DeMu, he's trying to build that as fast as he can. He's got 11 villagers trying to suspend that gate in midair. So it looks like he will be trying to get to Castle Age. You get some of those Castle Age technologies too with some of these boats. Beasty, look at this wood line. He's got to vacate all the way over there as we see that floating gate.
Villagers are getting pulled for the dock. Beasty is pulling all of his villagers now in order to take that dock down. He doesn't want it to provide the line of sight. But truth be told, it could also just be a fishing ship.
You know, all those villagers took it down, and you know that dock has naval arrow slits, and he's like, no, that thing's on land. I'm not hitting it. I'm not doing it. I'm not touching these villagers. It's not on water. I'm not going to try to take them down. Now Wooden Fortress over there on the northern side. It's an outpost race.
Players going for it, but now Castle Age has come in. Armored Hull is going to be coming in as well. Ship count overall still even. Beasty trying his best in order to take that dock down with the arrow slits. Not burning yet, should be burning any moment now. But Aerodel has been coming in. Oh my god, and the unique tech for the Japanese is also coming in. +2 armor, +2 pierce armor for these ships. And guess what? Beasty has 9 arrow ships, +4 more in queue. Once that upgrade comes in, these ships are useless.
Yeah, those arrow ships are... those Roots arrow ships are going to be shooting marshmallows at this point. I mean, especially against the Springled ships over here. I mean, I know, you know, the Springled ships is the counter, but it's just going to be that much harder of a counter, right? Military count 80 to 72. It looks like Beasty. He's trying to sit in feudal age for a little bit. He wants to push the initiative, maybe before some of these upgrades come in, and some of them have not come in yet. It looks like for DeMu, he's probably got about 10 to 15 seconds before he gets all of it, so DeMu's going to back up. He's going to back up that little bit on that western side. He gets a good line formation on some of these ships and kind of staggers what's going on. Demo ship trying to get a little bit of a how you doing. And maybe only one.
Upgrade should be coming in any moment now. And still some good connections here overall, but now with all the upgrades, DeMu should be in a good position to fight. But oh my god, sometimes you're just not able to tell which ship is which with the ruse. But yeah, you can tell that these archer ships, like, so they're not doing damage. They're not doing damage. And GG gets called. They're just not doing any damage.
Those Roosh arrow ships are like, why is my arrows bouncing off these ships? What is going on here? Just get me out. And DeMu ends up taking that one as Japan against the Rus. So now, on that chaotic map, I feel like we all just need to, let's just take a deep breath here. That was pretty chaotic. My heart rate's spiking.
It was 100%. Yeah, look at that military count there at the end. Like all of these ships, so many arrows getting shot, but no damage ultimately sticking in the copper plating. Just being able to win Beasty that game. Not Beasty DeMu, oh my god.
Yeah. See, you thought it was going to be a Beasty stomper, but it turns out that DeMu has awoken. The beast has arrived. And I got to say, actually, I think that might be the single best game I've ever seen of copper plating. Originally a meaningful tech, because if I'm not mistaken, Kraken, wasn't like a 2% increase in ranged armor when they first released the expansion.
I'm not sure if it was just a tooltip that was bugged or if it was actually just 2%.
I like to imagine it just was, but that was insane, that game. And, you know, quite an interesting thing here, because I think in this particular situation, with what we've been seeing in this tournament, I got to go to Tim for this question. Are Rus overrated on water?
No, Rus is never overrated ever.
Really?
Actually. That's my biased opinion. I think on I don't know. I feel like on this map it was kind of weird. You know, I mean, Beasty obviously knows much better than I do, but it feels like just because you have to do things like get your transport ship and get the scout over to get some of the deer, and like you just have to do a little bit more logistics to try to get everything. And then when you have a map like Four Lakes that Roost does such a good job of, just because on Four Lakes, those fish, a lot of those deep water fish, especially those ones in the back corner of the lakes, they're so good for Roost boats because they could just teleport those fish over to the dock. So it feels like for Roost, it's more of a Four Lakes pick than a moving out pick per se.
That's fair. I think we see similar with Archipelago. We've seen similar with Holy Island more recently as well. And, you know, kind of interesting when I think about this particular map moving out. Crackly, I'd say we see a lot more archer ships here. Like I've been noticing a lot of these games, it's almost like a 50-50 ratio of archer springle chips compared to any other water map where I'd say it's usually like 80, almost 90% springled.
It's actually pretty confusing to me just how many of them. I guess it's mainly because you need them against the demolition ships, right? Like your opponent, they might be like these little mosh pit fights where you really just need that mass because your opponent's going to be focusing down your archer ships. You need enough of them to survive to be able to snipe out those demolition ships. At the same time, it's also great having those archer ships, like a couple of extra archer ships, because it's a ring, right? Like you go one way, then you can also just sneak a couple the other way, and suddenly you got like 2 archer ships on the backside of your opponent's economy harassing fishing ships there.
Now, we have to look forward to another water map. And this particular water map, it looks like DeMu is going back to the French. Just yesterday, that was the only time it failed to net him a win up against Louis. Do we think there's still something to be cooked with here? Or do we think that maybe DeMu's just, you know, not right on this French pick at all, Tim?
You know, it's so weird to me seeing French played on water during this tournament. You know, I mean, like, right. I mean, I still remember because I'm a day one AOE 4 player, so I remember spin to win.
Yeah.
I remember everybody spamming coggers in chat, you know, trying to get a lot of these sprinkled ships making their little loop arounds, you know, all of their villagers on the rowers, I guess, or whatever they are getting dizzy. But for French here, our Archipelago, do you think it's more so just because of, and I'll actually launch this question back to Crackdy, do you think it's more so just because of their springled ships? Do you think that's why? Because it's definitely not wood economy. I mean, they get a little bit of villagers, but that's it.
You know what?
It's a lot of things that add up, but we'll have to see because this game is about to begin.
Exactly, and I know how we get into this game. We've gone from a closed water map into an open water map. Crackety, give me that Transformers noise.
It's not sounding great.
Bro, I think you need a doctor.
Maybe. Tim, come over and need you. But yeah, let's go. Game number 3 between DeMu and Beasty. Is he okay? I don't know. But yeah, here we go. Spawning in the color. I was about to say the color French. Spawning in the color purple. We got DeMu playing as the French on a water map. Could you believe it? Archipelago. Coming to you live. On the other hand side, we're used to it, the color by now. Beasty playing as the yellow with the Order of the Dragon. I want to say discount HRE on water. Still really good. Not quite as good as HRE.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we're seeing this on Archipelago is because people are banning HRE, right? We saw the bans for DeMu and Beasty. HRE is banned on both sides. So now that we have Order of the Dragon, the fact that I'm actually seeing it in a tournament where players are picking their civs, and okay, that scout just decided to not be a part of this Earth anymore. Right.
You don't want to get it is. You don't need the scout, right? Like, what are you gonna do with the scout? You already got all the sheep of the map, so might as well get rid of it. One less, like, you don't need the houses early then.
Well, yeah, but like, you could have. I don't know. It just it hurt. It hurt to see. But for Order of the Dragon, I mean. Let's talk about some of the discrepancies here, as Dark Age is going to be turning into Feudal Age very shortly. As DeMu, see, this is the way to treat your scout, Crackety. You have it in the shore. You have it take a long walk on the beach. That seems really nice in terms of beasties that got an untimely demise.
He's gonna be in the water for so long. He's gonna start growing guilds at this point in time.
Yeah, he probably will. Or maybe a Harry Potter reference. He needs a little bit of gillyweed. But looking at the Dark to Feudal Age. Back to my actual question. Let's be serious for a second. Back to my actual question. We see there's a lot of discrepancy when it comes to French and Order of the Dragon when it comes to villager count. Because for the French, they get that little bit of increased economic bonus if you can hover over that town center, our lovely observers, because these villagers are getting made, instead of every 20 seconds, it's 18 in Dark Age, and then it continues to scale in that way. In Feudal Age, it ends up being 17. For Order of the Dragon, making those gilded villagers, it takes a little bit longer. It takes 24 seconds, and I know they operate a little bit better than a normal villager, but we're going to see a wider discrepancy of villagers. And do you think for French, just because of that economic play, because of the economic bonus that they have, do you think that ends up counteracting how good the Order of the Dragon villagers are?
I'm not too sure on how exactly the math works out there, because not only do the French produce the villagers quicker, but they're also getting the economy upgrades a little bit cheaper, which means that you're going to be able to fit them in pretty much immediately. Meanwhile, with the Order of the Dragon, you might have to really make sure that you're going to be in a fine position when you start clicking those economy upgrades. Not that you end up with a sprinkle chip suddenly inside of your base and you don't have anything to deal with that. I think it's going to be, like, this is one of the very, very rare matchups. One that you probably aren't ever going to see outside of this tournament.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, honestly, seeing Order of the Dragon in any kind of tournament setting, again, where players are picking their civs, is a little bit befuddling to me, to be honest. But Order of the Dragon is going to be able to hit that Feudal Age button first. He does go up with the Aachen Chapel, and I know if you've been watching this tournament, you know Aachen Chapel is an HRE landmark as well, but for Order of the Dragon, it works a little bit differently. If you could click on that, because you know some of these gilded villagers, they have that increased economic rate, but Aachen Chapel just ends up pushing it over the edge a little bit. And you can see that chapel, I think it's an extra, how much percent is that? Hover over that for me.
That's going to be an additional 15%. So those villagers, they go from 28% bonus gathering rate to 43% gathering, slightly outdoing the HRE villagers. But the main benefit here that the Order of the Dragon have is once you start gathering rope from outside of that influence, you're still going to remain with that plus 28%. So you're still going to have something going for you. And Chamber of Commerce coming out from DeMu. And honestly, I think Chamber of Commerce is just really, really good overall to have as a landmark. You're getting that free market in really nice and early. And I feel like especially on these type of water maps, having a market at any one point in time, like especially early on, just makes such a big difference because you're able to really work around your economy more.
Yeah, I think so too. And then it just kind of, I mean, the Aachen Chapel more so like the HRE, right? It just sets you up for a late game if the game ends up continuing to be that long. DeMu spending a decent amount of villagers going for the Chamber of Commerce. Now, I mean, when you get some of these eco-techs, you're going to get free traders. However, these traders are on land. They're not going to have anywhere to trade their goods. But it does work a lot better, obviously, than the School of Cavalry. Just because it's a water map, it's essentially null and void. And I think that's an issue with the French, too, because there isn't really that landmark. There's really that landmark in Feudal that helps propel you to get a good naval economy. Whereas Beasty, with that Aachen Chapel, it's really going to help you.
Yeah, I can already tell. Like, look at his wood income right now. Overall, his income is just miles out of DeMu's right now. Age Up is coming in. Now, ships are going to get queued as well for DeMu. We see a little bit of the dancing right now happening with the ships, trying to make sure they do stay alive, but looks like the first fishing ship is going to get taken down here. And oh, this is going to hurt. Yeah, DeMu is going to have to pull some villagers back further into, like, deeper into the land there. So he gets actually some villagers sniped by the archer ship there.
And it just creates that little bit of idle time, right? I mean, it just makes sure that that wood line isn't necessarily safe. And you can take a look at some of these spawns and the difference of, I would argue that Archipelago could be categorized as a chaos map because these spawns are really, really important. You can see some of these wood lines for BC all the way on that northern side, all the way in the back, so it doesn't be able to get sniped. DeMu is a little bit different on that northern side. It ends up getting hit. Some of these arrow ships doing the best they can. It looks like a sprinkled ship from BC are going to be able to come in and try to take down some of this naval economy. And it's really nice when you hit Feudal Age first, Crackety. It's really nice when you hit Feudal Age first, especially as Order of the Dragon, because you can take the fights over on the French side instead of your own side.
Exactly, and man, DeMu, he's finding himself in a really difficult situation right now. He's only got a single Springle chip out right now. Beasty's already got 3 more in queue. Traders are getting killed because, honestly, yeah, don't need them. Get rid of them. But yeah, Beasty's just completely outmassing DeMu at this point in time. Oh, this is getting difficult now. Has enough Springle chips to start one-shotting the fishing ships.
Yeah, and I mean, this is how it works, right? I mean, this to me on paper, this is kind of what I expect Order of the Dragon to do against the French. Order of the Dragon has a good wood economy. French just doesn't. You know, so Beasty's going to be able to pump out a lot of these units, and we have a demo ship doing some dodging around that arrow ship, doing a really good job of that. We have an arrow ship from Beasty making sure there's no demo, and it looks like not trying to get to those fishing boats, they're trying to get to that sprinkled ship, and let's see if it ends up getting one.
Gets a connection. Springle ship's still alive. Gets some healing in. Isn't gonna be enough though from the looks of it. And yeah, I feel like this is over.
Yeah, I mean, Demu's going to be on the back foot for as long as he wants to be a part of this game. He's going to be on the back foot, right? And not getting this fishing economy going is going to be a really big issue. Demo ship taking out another sprinkled ship over there on the southern side. And Beasty, well, the great thing about it is some of these are a little bit injured. Some of these sprinkled chips, he can just take those back. Another demo ship from Demu trying to get in and get a good connection. And it does. It looks like that little bit of a one-on-one trade for either side. But the problem is, for Demu, yeah, he's taking down some of these Order of the Dragon ships. Military count's still 24-11. And Beasty's fishing economy has been untouched for the entire duration of this game.
Exactly, and I mean, Beasty, he's getting close to even in the economy. Demu's fishing ships have been idled out for a long time. You can tell by his food income right now. 47 food per minute. He's really, really struggling. Wood income pretty even still. But this is not a situation that really feels good here. Not at all. Economy upgrades in for both players so far. Wheelbarrow and the double broadaxe. But really, like, looking at the fishing ship numbers here, Demu's in trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not going to get better, all right? I mean, you know, this is a problem when you're playing against Order of the Dragon, and they have more economic units than you, right? Because a lot of their villagers that they're making are just that much better than yours. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Demu ended up going down was fishing ships. I mean, he might have lost one villager on that wood line on the northern side, but you can see how many worker kills there are. You know, there's 9 worker kills to 0. Demu has not been able to go on to Order of the Dragon waters. All of these have been on French waters, and Beasty's going to continue to push the initiative. He's going to suffocate the poor man.
And Demu still with only a single archer ship here. Doesn't have what it takes in order to really get rid of these demolition ships. And Beasty, he's got 3 archer ships, 6 springle ships, and now up to 4 demolition ships. Just the numbers game isn't adding up at all for Demu right now.
No, it isn't. You can see what he's doing with his navy. All of those ships with the beautiful purple fleur-de-lis are going to end up moving on the southern side. It looks like Demu's trying to get 1 or 2 demo ships. He needs some of those lucky demo hits to keep a shot into this game, and that one's not getting it.
Straight out for an archer ship at the very least, so get something in return. Could be able to... Nope, doesn't snipe out the demo ship there. I feel like you really want to get rid of the demo ship, lest it just creeps around the corner. Maybe gets an archer ship. Not quite. It's getting close, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that Demo just can't take a fight straight up, right? I mean, based on the military count, the demo ship ends up not getting a hit. Demo ship does try to take down an archer ship, but we did get a good demo hit on the southern side, it looks like. And this is basically just a war of who can get a good demo hit the fastest, right? What's really nice for Beasty is Demu doesn't have naval arrow slits on any of those docks, right? He can't really afford to send some villagers on stone because of how behind he is militaristically. And it looks like Beasty's going to be trying to get an arrow ship here. Maybe he might be able to spot out a villager, but ends up not being able to get there. That wood line from Demu, just making sure it's over on that northwestern side so an arrow ship can't get there. But economic count, 43-42. Beasty's doing a really good job.
Yeah, it's definitely just looking really tough right now for Demu. And Beasty's up to 11 springle ships. Demu's gonna need some godly demolition ships in order to come back in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's got... he better be making mostly demos, and I mean, he is making springled chips, but another dock ends up going down, so nothing will be queued in that particular regard. It looks like that northern side, Beasty going to be trying to make that little bit of a front with his navy. Demo ships on the south side for Demu, trying to get in there, but they're not sneaky enough. They're going to end up backing up in the other direction. Sneaky demos from Beasty over there on the south side. Some of those springled chips end up going down. Military count 55-35. Yeah, Demu doesn't have a shot in this one.
Yeah, French versus the HRE variant civilization here on water. Honestly, it was just like complete
wait a minute.
overwhelm. They went, oh, wait a second, hold on, hold the phone. It's not enough. It's still 9 sprinkle chips remaining here.
I thought DeMu might have exploded himself back into this game, but military count, yeah, you're right. I mean, he probably would have had to take down just about all of those to have a decent amount, but military count now 55 to 13, and that's the difference. DeMu trying to replenish what he had for his Navy. Beasty are going to be able to do it at pretty much a moment's notice.
Yeah, nah, Beasty, he's just trying to finish it off now, this game. He already probably knows that at this point in time, like, it's pretty much impossible for DeMu to come back in this one. But still, you have to be really careful in water, because all it takes is just 1 or 2 good demolition ships, and suddenly the playing field is even again. DeMu, he's still somewhat even when it comes to the overall income here. But it's so tough. It's so tough coming back from this situation.
Yeah, I mean, he's somewhat even, Kraken, but it just feels like food has been such a problem because of all these fishing builds. Demo's going to be able to be coming in here from Beasty. You see those Order of the Dragon demos. It looks like DeMu trying to get a cheeky one over here for a lot of Springle chips. One might end up going down. Those Springle chips, they're running out of shore here, Kraken. They're looking for the next archipelago. They're not going to be able to find it. A lot of these Springle chips now down at about 5 to 10% for DeMu. And now, Beasty's got a bit of corner. He has nowhere to go. All of this Navy that's going on here, it's down.
And more demolition ships are going to be connecting. Archer ships sniping out the demolition ships here from DeMu as they come out. A lot of these Springle ships are low health, but yeah, in the end, it doesn't matter. And OTD beating French. I've seen this play out pretty much this way. It's still very tough. Like, even if you go for a landing attack with the French, like Order of the Dragon, all they need is a single spearman, and because the spears are just so strong, you're able to just take down multiple knights with a single spear. So that's definitely not an approach either to take. And yeah, just the immediate aggression there in Feudal Age, being able to snowball this game for Beasty.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, we have enough we have enough snowball references to make a snowball fight at this point, and I'm really loving it. I really am. But you know, I mean, that was just pretty much Beasty got to Feudal Age first, being his Order of the Dragon, and was relentless and continued to really push that initiative. So now 2-1 lead for Beasty going into game 4. It's match point. DeMu's tournament life on the line. And he's going with Woodwall, that closed map. And he's going to be going with the Byzantines against the Malians. How do you feel about this matchup, Crackety?
Byzantines, I feel like, are just overall really, really strong. When I look at the Malians, they got a really, really good answer to the longbow spam with the javelin throwers. At the same time, DeMu can also just go for his own javelin throwers, but then it's going to be difficult for him to outmass the Malian javelin throwers, but not impossible. And something that's really, really good for the Byzantines against the Malians is those Libidinae. Having the ability to act as such a great meat shield with the reduction of range damage with javelin throwers, for example, like if they're able to just be the meat shield, javelin throwers don't do any damage to those spears.
No, and that's what, that's what I notice about the Malians in general, is because they have such a unique kit, right? They have all of their units, besides, archers, are pretty much unique. The Donzos are unique, the Musafati are unique, the javelin throwers are unique. So when you're playing up against the Malians, you got to be thinking in your head, you're like, okay, does my kit match up with the Malians' uniquities and what they're able to bring to the table? Some civilizations don't do it very well. If you have civs that are predominantly like knight archer based, they're not going to be that great because of Donzos and javelin throwers. They do a really good job. For the Byzantines, because of that Libidinae, right? I feel like their kit matches up exactly like you said. Making sure that you have the shield wall, making sure that you have that buffer around there. And there really isn't much that the Malians are going to be able to do about it. I mean, yeah, they have, archers, but it's not like they have men-at-arms in Feudal. It's not like they have, some of that in their own kit, in their own arsenal to deal with. And sofas obviously aren't the move either. So it becomes pretty tricky for the Malians to deal with it. But what's nice for the Malians on this particular map is because it's closed, it takes a little bit of extra time for the Byzantines to get around there. Maybe the Malians can get a little bit of an unscathed cow boom going on.
Definitely. But I think if it's like a 1TC versus 1TC kind of play, the main thing, or rather the main way that Malians tend to win in like early Castle Age is just overwhelming your opponent with all the food that you're getting from your cow boom and just being able to pump out a million units there. If there's a civilization that can really keep up with that, it has to be the Byzantines with those free mercenaries being able to just get so many units out. Then you're able to, like, sure, your opponent is going to cow boom, but you're going to get a free farm transition in the meantime. So you're going to have that continued income, that continued olive oil income, being able to keep out on making more and more of those, mercenary units. And then suddenly you're able to keep up and maybe even be able to push back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the I think Byzantines are one of the civilizations now. A lot of the times when you're playing against Mali, a lot of people like to get a second town center because you got to make sure, right, that you're getting the economic units and you're trying to get rid of the pit mines and the cow boom and all of that kind of stuff. Are Byzantines going to go second TC here?
I think, like, if you're going second TC with Byzantines, you might be putting yourself on the back foot as soon as Castle Age approaches. I think 1 TC is probably going to be the safer bet here, but we'll be able to find out any moment now. As game number 4 is going to approach Beasty. Already on match point, can DeMu once again equal out the series with the Byzantines here on Woodwall?
And I think playing as the Byzantines, he might have a pretty good shot. In order to do that, pit mine going up for Beasty. Some of these houses are going to be able to get up there just so he can get to Feudal Age. Now, Byzantines on the other side, I think one of the things that's really important to take a look at, obviously, is where those berries are, right? Where that first cistern's going to go. He's going to be able to get some of those berries, the gold, the sheep, which is really going to help. And, you know, what's nice for DeMu, too, is he has a nice little backberry area. Maybe you can spawn a couple little bit more merc units with it.
Yeah, definitely not looking bad here for him, having all the resource that he needs inside the influence of his cistern. Also, something to take note of is on this map, next to the sacred sites, there's a lot of additional berries. So if it gets into like a drawn-out game, a drawn-out Feudal Age game without a farm transition, could be the potential of DeMu moving out on the map and just being able to harvest olive oil from those outward berry spots. That's a lot of berries.
Wow. That's just... It's getting, you know, if Demu's able to get this sacred site, maybe he ends up getting a wall in that particular area. It could get noticeably oily for Demu and putting out a lot of those mercantile units. Now, in this particular area too, you know, we talk about doing things like for the Byzantines in Feudal, doing things like getting a second town center or doing things like getting mercantile units just to make sure that Malians don't get that boom off, you know. But for the Byzantines, do you think doing things like fast castle into something like Varangian guards or something like that could be a play for him too?
Varangian guards are kind of tough, mainly because you're able to counter them relatively easily, both with Musafadi warriors, but I think mainly probably just with Sofas. Sofas just do absolutely wonders there against the Varangian guards, doing bonus damage, just being really, really fast, being able to just run away, pick their fights. And not only do they do well against the Varangian guards, but they would also do well against the backline. Just if there's javelin throws, if there's longbows, for example, yeah, they would do well in both those situations. That's gonna be the question.
It's kind of crazy too, because you're talking about those sofas, and when they get their imported armor, they become quite the strong pieces of furniture. But they end up doing a little bit of bonus damage to infantry, and that's not something. If you're a Malian player, obviously you know that, but if you're not somebody who sees the Malians that often on ladder, you might be seeing your sofas doing a really good job at taking down your infantry units, and you're like, how did that even happen? You know, but getting that little bit of bonus damage just means that you might be able to swing a fight in your favor, especially with that imported armor. Now, that Mansa Quarry coming up for Beasty. Shout out Mansa Musa, like I always do, richest man in Africa at that time. Going to be able to get that one up. Grand Winery for the Byzantines as well, making sure you get that extra mercantile unit. And you talked about the Byzantines, Crackety. You talked about them being pretty strong in this particular area of the game. You know, will we see something like Byzantines end up being brought back down to earth?
Maybe. I can't speak for the devs there. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But yeah, Byzantines definitely seem pretty strong here at the moment. Malians, though, definitely do have their windows. And it's not like Byzantines are like an uncounterable civilization. You're able to get them into tight spots in many matchups as well. There are matchups, believe it or not, where the Byzantines aren't favored in.
Yeah, and I mean,
I'm not gonna go into detail there.
I was gonna say, go ahead. Give us a little bit of a
English comes to mind.
Yeah,
English also do pretty well there. I think Malians maybe like they do have a really really good response when it comes to like the archer, like the backline folk heavy Byzantines there with the javelin throwers. And I think Beasty might just be in a position here where he can just like make a couple of archers, just be able to defend there, and then other than that, just go for full cow boom.
Yeah, and I think for DeMu, he just wants to make sure that doesn't happen, right? He gets a barracks out, he gets his second cistern, and will be able to connect them very quickly as soon as that barracks ends up getting made. But it looks like Beasty going to be going with an archery range first because he knows there's going to be something like Limited going on. Beasty doing a really good job of scouting, just making sure that Limited are going to be the ones coming out, and that's exactly what happens. He does get that feudal age upgrade. He is going to be able to connect those cisterns. Wheelbarrow is going to come up for DeMu, using that cistern bonus, making sure those technologies are going to be able to get there. And look at that Beasty, going to be having a little bit of another pit mine. He's got a rather large gold over here on the southeastern part of the map, and that pit mine will be going up for the Byzantines. Now, we talked about, you end up getting that buzzsaw, right, with all of the Limited, with all of the mercantile units, but it takes a little bit of time to get it going. So those Limited will be trying to get over there. It looks like one Limited will be able to get there, but that pit mine's up. The worst thing about it, Crackety, is that's a 1,500 hit point building. It's going to take a while to actually get down, so he might have stopped some houses from getting there. He might have been able to delay that, as a Malian archer is going to be coming up here, making sure that Limited ends up going in the other direction. But now that that pit mine's made, that gold's going to be churning.
Yeah, so passive gold is going to be coming in there for Beasty. Second Limited is coming in, so it looks like DeMu actually wants to challenge the archer here now to a fight, but second archer is going to arrive. It's going to make sure that Limited aren't really going to do too well. Looks like he activated shield wall, and that single Limited that was getting focused there. Yeah, and he is able to deny this, or rather delay this expansion on the pit mine, at least for a little bit. But yeah, he's going to have to retreat from there. That is not a fight that he can really win with Limited only. Let's take a look. Okay, it looks like we are... I think that is the Keshik wing. No, that is the javelin thrower wing. Yeah. It's kind of difficult to tell because it's a saber. And yeah, I guess the camel riders, they do use that. But I always associate that with the Ghoulems or with the Keshiks that come in.
Yeah, it's always, even for somebody that plays Byzantines like myself, you got to look at that Merc house and just kind of be like, okay, which contract is this? which one am I going for? And plus with that mercantile house, one of the things too, you're not going to be able to see what your opponent is going for until you see that unit. Right? The mercantile house doesn't make any changes. It doesn't look any different from the exterior until you see 5 javelin throwers and you're like, oh, I see what they're doing now. Beasty going to be able to shore up that pit mine over here on the southern side. Some Limited might be able to get up. You talked about that shield wall. Just with those 1 or 2 Limited, it seems like the shield wall looks a lot better when those Limited are in more of a hoplite formation. Right, when they have a decent amount of them, just to kind of scatter some of that arrow fire. And Beasty's got about 8 archers, which is going to be pretty good, but DeMu's really going to need those javelin throws back here, and adding in some horsemen as well. What do you think about his horseman change, trying to add a stable in?
I think it's really good just having that triple composition there. And one of the main things that Malians can struggle with in Feudal Age is when it comes to massing up a large amount of units. And that's probably the main way that most civilizations are able to beat the Malians, is just you mass up so many units that the Malians can't keep up in Feudal Age. And then you just win. You just overwhelm and you just win. You burn down the building, suddenly they're not getting any passive income. And yeah, suddenly it's not a good day for the Malians here. And DeMu, I mean, Byzantines, that's not usually like one of the main civilizations that we think about in this context, but with the free mercenaries, or I say free, but like with the mercenaries that they can get, being able to mass up a lot of units would put them in a good position here to be able to go for that play of just trying to overwhelm the Malians.
Yeah, and I feel like with these javelin throwers, you just kind of need enough to make sure that the Malian archers don't get pickings on the Limited, right? And I feel like for DeMu, just having the 2 sets of javelin throwers, it gives him the ability to do that. That pit mine finally starts burning. Limited did a good job. He'll have to pull a villager over if he wants to repair that, but you're exactly right. I mean, you lose that pit mine. That's a big, big deal. And DeMu's trying to do the best he can. He goes to that back berries that we talked about over on the eastern side, that northeastern side of his base, because he's got to keep up the javelin thrower production. against the Malians. And I think even though Beasty, 9 minutes into the game, he's had to make all of these units to make sure his pit mine is contained. That's kind of a win for DeMu in my eyes. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Like this right now, just forcing Beasty into making this many units, that is definitely a very good position here for the Byzantines to be in. In any civilization against the Malians, they're going to be happy if the Malians have to invest a lot into units, and that pit mine is going to go down. So that's a lot of gold now not flowing into Beasty's pockets anymore. Roughly 100 gold that he's going to be missing out on now per minute. The cow boom still going steady. We are up to 8 cattle now so far, but it's definitely not where Beasty wants to be. He wants more.
Crackney, look at how important these horsemen were. I mean, DeMu's got just about 3 or 4 in this area, but for Beasty's military count right now, I mean, he's starting to add in Donzos now. So again, he's reacting to what DeMu's doing. He has to add barracks, he has to do all of this kind of stuff and make Donzos get the upgrades where he wants to be making cattle and all of that kind of stuff because of the fact that DeMu added a little bit of horsemen, because there were archers, there were javelin throwers. That was basically the entirety of his military composition. So now that he has to do that, he has to make these changes. He's adding 3 barracks.
That's a lot of production buildings here now for Beasty. And he'll have to be careful. The way this is going right now, he doesn't have that many sheep remaining under his TC. He might have to really early just pull a couple of cattle out of his ranches just to eat from them. Or have to move out onto deer or any other external food resource. Not something that he really wants to do when he's behind in military.
No, absolutely not. And especially, just like you called it, Crackety, you're seeing those villagers go over to the western berries. If I had to pick a resource not to want to get, it's about picking those pomegranates because of how slow that it ends up being now. DeMu's probably going to have to make his own little bit of military change because of those 3 barracks and because he's getting out those Donzos, just making sure that those horsemen don't get a little bit of a surround. I think DeMu's going to need to add a little bit of his own archers. And for Byzantines, I don't know, it feels like it feels a little rough to do that because you have such a food-heavy macro when you're doing things like Limit Tene and Horsemen. You're really worried about food, and you can see DeMu's doing that. He's got about 1,200 food per minute. Once you start adding archer ranges, once you start adding archers to try to get these Donzos, you kind of have to reformulate what you're doing.
I'm wondering what DeMu's plan is right now, if he just wants to double down, or if he wants to age up now behind this. He has villagers and gold, even though he has got all of his upgrades in right now. So I think this might actually just be like a slow transition for him now into that next age, into that castle age. Javelins are sniping out each other. They do bonus damage to each other, which is a little bit funny to watch at times. But yeah, javelin throwers definitely... They're definitely working right now, being micro tier, trying to get archers, trying to get other javelin throws in, but DeMu is just overwhelming right now. Look at that. Horseman now diving past, able to kill up all of the archers, and suddenly, without the archers, BC doesn't have any answer to Limit Tene anymore. Sure, javelin throwers don't do that badly against Limit Tene. But yeah, man, he's... Oh, and he rebuilt the pit mine behind this. That's just gonna go down immediately again.
Yeah, I think Beasty kind of thought that fight was going to go a little bit more in his favor, but I just don't think he had enough Donzos for that. Honestly, I mean, Limit Tene, they were able to take down the Donzos, and then there were still 3 or 4 horsemen that are going to be able to surround some of these javelin throwers. Beasty's going to be on the back foot just because of the fact that he lost that first engagement. Donzo's going to be able to throw their spears, much like the javelin throwers. I think everybody in the Malian Empire has the ability to throw some stuff, and that's exactly what those Donzos end up doing. But you're exactly right. That pit mine is going to end up going down. I think Beasty's got to vacate this pit mine. Maybe it was a little bit greedy because he does have a gold over there on the northwestern side of his base. That's a lot easier to protect in this area. I think he wasted a lot of resources trying to get this pit mine up.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, he is now just going for that pit mine that's on the other side of his base and should be fine with being able to protect that one. But behind this DeMu, look at his resource. He's going up to Castle Age very, very shortly now.
And this is so frustrating when you're playing against the Byzantines, right? They have all of these units, and for how many units they get just with...
Yeah, okay, we're back. Hot mic check. Oh, there are hot mics. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh, my God. The hottest mics are here, guys. We're going to be resuming the game in just a second. It looks like we are just trying to get the game so, we can see it. You guys can see it. We're going to make sure that we can see it. And then we're going to be giving you the live action in this very pivotal game 4. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot going on here. Just waiting for our screen. I'm taking a look at what's going on here at 14.5 minutes, just about 15 minutes. Looks like on the screen, I'm gonna try to cast from the stream. Oh, here we go. We got a video.
All right, back we are. We're catching up exactly where we left off. DeMu just reached Castle Age. And Beasty behind us also going up to Castle Age, pushing back out a little bit now that DeMu went up first.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously for DeMu, he's going to be able to push the initiative a little bit. He's got some of his upgrades. He's going to be adding some Varangian guards as well. He's adding some javelin throwers. He'll probably get that Limited upgrade pretty soon. And I think for Beasty, when you end up going with this Grand Fulani Corral, I think just because of Limited, we probably don't see much of Sofas.
Yeah, Limited definitely makes this a hard matchup for Sofas. But then again, Beasty is also adding in archers again. So we'll at least have a way to deal with those issues. That behind this, there's still a lot of javelin throws coming in. Javelin throws, though, they aren't that great against melee units. Against the Donzos, against the Musafati warriors, their attack speed is very, very slow, and overkill is very high. So it's going to take them quite a while. Like, the effective throughput, the effective units that they kill per second is relatively low when you compare them to archers. But now DeMu, he's really pushing in. They got a lot of Varangian guards here with him. Monk, meanwhile, gets also trained. Wants to start collecting some of these relics. And another pit mine is going down. Fight now is getting forced to take here. Javelin action.
And it looks like, I mean, on this front line, some of the Varangian Guard is going to do a pretty good job against a lot of those Donzos. Musafati is going to be adding in for Beasty, trying to get some of these Varangian Guards to end up going down. And this was a hold, I feel like, from Beasty. Even though that pit mine ended up going down, he took a considerable amount of Byzantine troops with him.
Yeah, behind this, military mass is starting to even out, and Beasty, he is closer to his production facility, so able to pump those units out quite quickly. Archers are coming in, about to get sniped down immediately. Trading out for some of these javelin throwers. Varangian now able to close up to those javelin throwers. But still, overall, yeah, Beasty's holding this. Look at the food income. He's 1,400 food income ahead of DeMu. What's going on there right now?
Yeah, and I mean,
this is farm transition.
And this is what happens
farm transition
with the Grand Fulani Corral, which is kind of insane. Is you get that corral going, and then with all of this food per minute at 1,800 food per minute, he's going to be able to continuously pump units. And this is that Malian power spike that everybody so scared of. It makes you shake in your boots. Military count 42 to 14, and look at how much military Beasty has in the queue right now. I think he might have turned this game around.
Yeah, I mean, he barely lost any villagers. So far, the only thing that DeMu really took care of was that one pit mine, but the transition to Castle Age is in now, and that's an additional pretty much like 600 food per minute that BC is getting now, just from being able to get up to that Castle Age. Yeah, there's so many units now. He's going to have to fall back to a single relic right now for DeMu is going to give him some olive oil. But he's not queuing mercenaries right now. He's got 600 olive oil in the bank. Needs to start queuing more units, but oh my god, I'm not sure if he can hold this. That's just so many units right now streaming across the map. And still so much food that Beasty still has in reserves that he can pump out now with units.
And that's, you're exactly right, Crackney. It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe he might be able to hold. I mean, there's a decent amount of range mass, and that aqueduct finally, Beasty going to be able to break DeMu's water, and some of that cistern levels are going to end up going down. However, when this area, you might be able to hold this a little bit, but it's not like it's going to stop. So maybe, yeah, you hold wave 1, but we're playing Call of Duty Zombies at this point. There's going to be 3 or 4 waves back in this up.
Already Musafati warriors out right now. There's only 10 Varangian guards. Still more javelin throws are coming in right now for DeMu. The front line doesn't take a lot of range damage here. It's Varangian guards and Libitne. Also the back line, mostly javelin throws. So the archers don't really perform too well here. But it's the mass of units right now that's just completely overrunning DeMu's space here. Villagers, looks like there were some units that split off. So a couple of villagers are getting taken down. The farms, they're on the backside there. Oh man, this is just really, really tough right now.
Yeah, I mean, Beasty is doing the best he can. I know from some of that Golden Horn Towers making those camels, but those camels aren't going to do much for you except trying to absorb a lot of that archer fire, some of that Castle Age archers that he has. I'm not really sure. Did we look at to see if Beasty has that poison yet?
Beasty does have the poison arrows, and now some stealthed up Musafati warriors are slipping across the side there, running straight for DeMu's farming economy now. Yeah, it's just it's just a continuous stream of units that you see there coming out of Beasty's base behind this. The food income, it's just not stopping here for him. It's all completely passive, no more food transitioning needed right now. It's all just into gold. All the upgrades are going to be coming in, and behind this, all that Beasty needs to do right now is just diminish the economy that DeMu has. Because behind this, in theory, Beasty is up like 20, 25 economic units if you count the cattle in.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what happens when everything gets going for the Malians, right? I mean, it feels like for DeMu, he did a really good job in Feudal Age. He was able to, you know, stop that pit mine from going on, but as far as that cow boom situation goes right behind that town center, it's very difficult to just get everything over there to try to take that out. And he was so consumed with the pit mine that corral ended up getting made, and those cows are going to end up getting a lot of food. And now with a military count of about 94 with no signs of slowing down, I feel like Beasty, at this point, he can kind of just beat his head against the keyboard and make any units he wants.
Big fight now happening again. There's some archers from DeMu in there as well. Archers and javelin throwers. Is it going to be enough, though? It doesn't feel like it is, because the Musafati warriors, they just cleaned up the entire front line, and now they're acting as a meat shield for the archers. The poison arrows just deal so much damage, even able to deal with all of these javelin throws right now. Yeah, look, it's just so much damage just pushing through right now against the javelin throwers. Musafati warriors still alive, more coming out. You can see this continuous line of units right now streaming out of Beasty space. 87 military to 15 military. And it feels like this is not something that DeMu can come back from. And Beasty might be, finishing it off with a 3-1 in set number 1.
Yeah, I mean, you could see just how once you get everything up and going, the Malian's just going to be able to produce all of those military and just overrun you. I mean, olive oil or otherwise, you can have a 5th resource, you can have a 6th resource if you want. Just for the ability for that corral and those pit mines to give you all of that income is so important. And Beasty will be taking this one, and we'll be taking the series, going to be moving on to the semifinals in a 3-1 display. But I'll be honest, Crackety, don't let the score fool you. There were so many games. I feel like all of these games were relatively close.
Yeah, absolutely. DeMu put up a great fight there. And if it was, I feel like maybe the Castle Age wasn't necessary there for DeMu. As bad as it sounds, I think that you can definitely like win this one in Feudal Age with the Byzantines. It took a lot of his tempo away again. Like, he was in a good spot, and then the Castle Age came. Suddenly, Beasty's pushing across the map gave him enough time for his own Castle Age there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just being able to hold a little bit, and I think it just goes to show. I mean, what if Beasty? I mean, he did get a little greedy with that South Pit Mine, but what if he got a little greedy and not made a lot more military? Right? He didn't end up getting that battle in Feudal. That could have been a Byzantines overrun just because of the military count that was there. You know, the military count, it was probably about 30 to 20 for the most part for DeMu in Feudal, but Beasty made just enough units to make sure he was able to get to that Castle Age.
Well, and then we get to the busted Malian nature of spam, something that usually we see the Byzantines do a little bit earlier. So yes, folks, that does mean that we are going to be saying farewell to the blessed DeMu. Ben, we talked about this difficulty making a little bit of a deeper run. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get past the quarterfinals here, but you know, tough with an opponent like Beast. I think we need to break down these games a little bit though, because you know, one kind of thing that comes to mind to me, I'm just looking back at that game for you boys. I don't know what it is about French right now, but somehow French have gone in 24 hours from the winningest Civ in this tournament to, I think, the second worst performing Civ. And I'm wondering if Ben is onto something here, if there is maybe something unexplored about the French, because I love the fact he went for the cock crackety. I'm just not sure why those traders had to get deleted.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really do anything with them, right? Like, you need a straight connection. Like, the one way that you could really work with those traders is if you're gonna micro them with a transport ship, but that's just That's not okay. That's not
Hey,
cool.
Matt. Hey, what? Remember, it's DeMu, former StarCraft god. All right, this is just a little bit extra APM on top. But it's an interesting thought, right? Because if you do micro them, the transport ship is what 100 wood, and at that distance, trading to a dock, you can basically pay for yourself on the return, which is kind of bonkers. I think. Like if you actually do have, obviously, water is very intense, but if you can find that extra APM, it's not like someone can kill a transport ship early in feudal, right? Like those things are ridiculously tanky.
Now, my question for
Yeah.
you guys, just because you talk about that map and getting the transport ship, what do you think about Malians with that transport ship?
Oh no, we go into that place.
What do you? I'm just
seen
we're
it
just
time and
talking.
time.
No one's doing
We've seen
anything.
it time
We're
and
just
time
talking.
again. Like
We have.
it's really good. Like it can catch you off guard. It's like it's fitting for those chaos maps because it's just an
Yes.
additional chaos factor and it's catching your opponent off guard, and it's just not something that many players really know how to handle. And even if they know how to handle it, it's still very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think we saw it used very well by B, if you remember, on the Water Drake map, which I'm sure Cal was happy about. He gets to see it once in a blue moon, where it looked broken. But I remember Ben talking about this. I talked about this to him at Waterlows 2 years ago. Because if you remember correctly, around then, people thought the Malian transport ship play was going to be OP. And Ben gave a really good answer. He's like, it seems broken, but just don't panic. Right? If you don't overreact, what you realize is your opponent is now idling 5 villages to try and do something to you. And that's an intriguing way to think about it. I think it's a very situational strategy, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of idle time, but it can pay off, right? Because you idle your 4 villagers, but in return, you might idle out like 5, 6 fishing ships, which is where it's very important. You got to deal with it in the very same way that you deal with like Roo's very fast feudal age. You just got to add multiple docks and you got to spread out your fishing economy.
Now, interesting little statistic. I mentioned that French was going to be second worst performing Civ in 24 hours. They're actually third worst performing. The worst is Joan. You want to know the most interesting stat now coming out of this? For all the talk of Byzantines being OP, Tim, you'll love this. They're actually the second worst performing Civ in this entire tournament.
Okay.
So we're getting buffs, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the cistern. I think the first cistern is 10%, and probably bump that up.
Yeah,
I mean, you
but
probably
what-
want to bump that up to 20. You know?
Yeah, like, no. Whoa. I think we're underrating. It needs to be like 25, and then like what? Usually you get system level 2 by the time you're age 2, so maybe we make it like 40%. What do you think, Crackety?
Yeah, gotta be able to like keep up with the HRE there in that regard. But jokes aside, I think the main reason why the Byzantines have like a really low win rate here at the moment is you're not going to be picking them on water maps. You're not going to be picking them on hybrid maps. If you do, then it's like already kind of like an auto loss situation there. And that kind of reduces the options that you have with when are you going to pick them. And also just kind of highlights for your opponent, oh, this is going to be a land map. My opponent drafted Byzantines. If he's going to pick Byzantines on any map, it's probably going to be there. I'm going to pick a civilization that can actually do well against Byzantines.